If you want 2025 to finally be the year that you stop letting other people's perceptions of you control how you show up, then this video is for you. I'm going to teach you exactly how I stopped people pleasing, and it is not what you think. Hello, my loves. I'm your girl, Rima, your tough, loving big sis who takes her own advice. And you are tuned in to another episode of my sis-mas series, where you're getting 12 episodes of big sis advice all throughout the month of December. Today, we're gonna talk about exactly what I did very recently to get me to a place where I genuinely have zero desire to people please anymore. The reason I say it's not what you think is because there is so much advice out there that tries to oversimplify this process through the lens of, well, you just need to stop caring what people think or set better boundaries. And it's very obvious that a lot of the people giving this advice have never actually struggled with chronic people-pleasing tendencies, because it is not that simple. To heal from people-pleasing or to release the urge to people-please is actually not about not caring what people think. As I reflect on what made it so accessible to me to become the version of me that I've always wanted to be, I felt the need to come on here and kind of challenge a lot of the mainstream advice around this. So we are gonna start with the typical advice of, in order to stop people pleasing, you just need to stop caring what people think. And I really wanna assure you that I very much so care what people think about me. And I actually want to stay that way. It has really benefited me a lot. As somebody who is on YouTube, I'm very intentional about how I show up. I want to make you guys feel like you can trust me. I want you to really feel confident in the advice that I'm giving you. I want to make you feel protected and safe. I want you to feel like I'm someone reliable whose advice you can actually apply. And I don't know that I'd be able to necessarily achieve that by not caring what you think about me. I apply that to the relationships in my life, whether it's with my family or friends. I very much so care what they think about me because that matters to me. I love them. Of course I care what they think. And so I don't want you to think you need to be someone who is so detached from other people's opinions of you, because a lot of times, especially to us people pleasers, constantly keeping our ears to the ground and keeping a pulse on how people think about us makes us feel safe. And I very much so want to honor that. That is a quality and a level of emotional intelligence that you have built for years and years and years, and you're not gonna shut that off overnight. Not only are you not going to shut that off overnight, you actually might not want to shut that off overnight. As someone who has been trained to prioritize other people's feelings above yours, and we'll get to that, it's not going to feel very doable for you to just shut off the part of you that is always tapped into how every single person is feeling about you at all times. I want to challenge you to take this strength that you have, because it is a strength, to be constantly dialed in to how someone is feeling about you and lean into it in a way that actually serves you. So what I've learned to do is, instead of saying that I don't care what people think about me, which is not only untrue, but just feels very inaccessible for me, I have decided that yes, I do care what everyone thinks about me. And that is exhausting, yes, but it's only exhausting if I'm trying to make everybody like me. And that's inherently what it is to be a people pleaser. I used to be someone who wanted everyone to like me, even if I didn't like them. So the adult in me had to come out and be like, okay, you care a lot what people think, cool. You're trying to get everyone and their mother to like you. Seems very not doable, seems very draining. Is there a world where there are a certain group of people who, if they didn't like you or didn't approve of you or thought you were a bitch, is there a world where that would be okay with you? And it was such an interesting conversation, because while it might not have felt like an immediate yes, it felt like it was so much more doable for me to get myself to a place where I could know someone hates me and be okay with it, than for me to just say I don't care what they think, period, or I'm not even tuned into what they think, or I'm not bothered by how they're perceiving me. No, don't get me wrong. In 99.999, if not 100% of conversations I have, I am thinking about how I'm being perceived by that person. That is what it is to be a recovering empath and recovering people pleaser. I was trained from a very young age to be hyper aware of how I'm being perceived. So the unlock for me is not to just turn that off. That feels very unsafe. The unlock is to be like, if you think I'm a bitch, I don't care in a lot of these cases. And that has been so, so, so liberating. And the reason that's so liberating, my love, is because I'm not a bitch. And I know I'm not a bitch. And I know I'm a good person. I'm very proud of the morals that I've built and the integrity that I've built and just who I am and what I value. But I also recognize I can't make everyone see that the way I see it, and I don't need to. But while I'm still dialed into how everyone's feeling about me, I can detach from wanting to control the way they see me. In a lot of cases, especially with people whose values are very misaligned, I am actually okay with them thinking I'm a bitch. That was a huge, huge, huge gateway drug into me healing from my people-pleasing tendencies. The second mindset shift that I had to go through for me to get to a place where I actually stopped people-pleasing for real this time was that I just had to care about how I think about myself just 1% more than how other people thought of me, including people who I love. So once again, going back to this very unrealistic advice of stop caring what people think about you, the reality is, yes, I still very much so care what people think about me. However, is there a world where I can care what I think about myself just 1% more, just 1% more? This goes for my husband. This goes for my family. This goes for people at work. This goes for you guys. And this has been such a protective, grounding mechanism for me as someone who very much so, again, was taught to really center people's feelings above my own. I realized that I became this people pleaser and this shapeshifter, honestly, in a lot of situations, because how you felt about me, I allowed that to matter more than how I felt about me. So even in the moments where I was proud of something I did or said, or proud of a work product, if I got negative feedback, I was always looking at how people felt about things I was doing as a higher priority than how I felt about those things. And so it just changed the way I showed up, even in my relationship. I talk about this video a lot because it was one of the most honest, raw, impactful videos. But when I posted about decensoring my husband, that was genuinely what I meant. And I don't know that I had the words for it, but that was a huge part in me recovering from my people-pleasing tendencies, because all it meant to decenter Ahmed was not to neglect him. No way. It was just to center my opinions first, so that I can show up as someone who feels very grounded, feels very confident, feels very self-assured. And whether the people in your life know it or not, you being that way is going to serve you and them so much more. Because the version of you who is so confident and aligned with what you're doing and is not doing things just for the sake of pleasing others, but is doing it because you like it first and they like it second, that version of you is going to be so much more magnetic, so much more impactful, persuasive. Like when you can really stand on business about why you're doing something or why you're saying something, you will be able to enlist the people around you so much more effectively, because they are feeding off of your energy 10 times more than they're feeding off of what you're saying or doing. So I really want to encourage you, when we think about recovering from our people-pleasing tendencies, please do not take the very overly simplistic and unrealistic and even unproductive advice of, well, just stop caring what people think about you. No. Understand that you caring what people think about you has gotten you very far. It has kept you safe. It has allowed you to be very intentional about how to show up in certain relationship dynamics. But the key now to help you really center your feelings and your desires first and not let people get in your way is to think about, number one, the case where if someone really didn't like you, you were okay with that. And number two, in the cases where there are people that you love and really respect in your life, how can you just make your opinion just 1% more important than theirs? That way, if you feel really good about something, let's say it's an outfit that you're putting on, and you look in the mirror and you're like, man, I look so good. Or if you send a photo into the group chat and you feel so good about how you look in that photo, if your friends come back and criticize your outfit or criticize the photo, you are able to still feel confident about that. And I mean, sometimes, maybe they point something out you didn't notice and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. But it's still coming back to yourself first. You're not changing your behaviors just because someone else said so. You are not betraying or sacrificing your self-concept because other people's opinions are put on a pedestal and your opinion just kind of like flows with whatever direction they take you in. You are gonna be so much more self-assured and not really crave that validation or that need for people pleasing, because you have centered your opinion above and beyond all else. The final mindset that I've been reflecting on is, instead of asking yourself what someone in your life thinks about you or your decisions, ask yourself what your future self thinks about you and your decisions. And the reason that I love this tactic is, once again, it honors the fact that this tendency, this habit, this survival mechanism of people pleasing, it didn't come out of nowhere. But instead of trying to eradicate it overnight, how can we build the muscle in a way that kind of leans into what you're already doing? It's such a practical way of doing things, and it's working smarter, not harder. And so yeah, if you are in the habit of caring so much what everyone and their mother thinks about you, why not personify your future self as someone else, but is like the higher, more aligned version of who you are today, and try to center their feelings about you over everyone else's in your life. This is a tactic that I've been employing over the past year, and I've been doing this journal prompt, which I think I'll probably end up making a video about if you're interested. But instead of writing to my future self, which is something I used to do since I was a kid, I started embodying my future self, like pretending I'm her, and sitting down and journaling to this version of me. Basically, my future self would give me advice. And it sounds crazy, but when I would sit down with pen to paper and just channel this higher version of me, I always knew what to say from that perspective. And that version of me, my future self, whether it's a year out, or even maybe for you, it's like your 80-year-old self. Maybe it's not, the version of you in 2026 or whatever feels best for you, just go with that. But that version of me always knew exactly what to tell me. But on top of that, she always thought so highly of me. She was never judging me. Even when I was going through it, even on my worst days, she always approached me with this just nurturing vibe. And even if it was tough love that I needed to hear, which I often do need to hear, there was always this knowingness and this trust that you're going to figure it out. And something about having my future self believe in me and understand why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, and understand that I'm going to make it and I'm going to get the things I want out of life, helped neutralize everyone else's opinions. It kind of made me feel like I had this person in my life who gets it, who really gets me, who really understands me on a deep level. And I suddenly no longer need anyone else to understand me. And I think just leaning into that whole thing of okay, I do care what people think. I am trying to be a people pleaser. Okay, how can I make this work in my favor? Let me try to please the future version of myself. What would that look like? And having that version of you on your side is going to make you feel so supported and so confident in who you are that you do not need the validation and approval of all these other voices in your life. People pleasing has been something that I realized in my adulthood I was born and raised to do. And I don't think it was intentional at all, but I think, there's a lot of messaging that a lot of us get as children where we're very much so rewarded for putting other people before us. We're very much so rewarded for being highly empathetic and for trying to take care of other people's feelings. And I'm just here to tell you that if you've been in the habit of doing that, and if that has become such a strong part of your identity, it's okay that you haven't changed that overnight. Be gentle with yourself and understand that there might be elements of that are actually working in your favor. So the idea is to not beat yourself up about this characteristic, but it's to ensure that this character trait, or whatever we want to call it, is not stopping you from being the person you want to be. That's it. It's just as simple as that. How can we make sure that this thing does not stand in the way of who I know I can be? And the reality is, this vision that you have for your future, and this is one thing I learned through those future self, journal sessions, it doesn't have to be far away. It can be so much closer than you think it is. And it doesn't require all of this hard, grueling work. It really can just be an intention. So if you have the intention, my love, in 2025 to stop people pleasing for good, it really can be an overnight thing. I just need you to make the quick but very impactful mindset shifts that you do not need everybody to like you. It's okay to still care what they think and be aware of what they think, but it's also okay to recognize that not everyone's gonna like me. And if I'm saying something that means something, chances are there's going to be a group of people that I should turn off. I shouldn't have everyone agreeing with the things I'm saying and doing. And I'm okay with there being a group of people that misunderstand me or understand me and just decide that they don't like me. And on top of that, with the group of people who I've decided I love and I want in my life, I do care what they think. I just care what I think a little more. There was this quote that I wrote, because I used to write very short poetry back in my day. It was like when I was trying to move on from a guy that I still had feelings for. And I wrote, of course I've missed you. I just miss me more. And that's it. It's like I was honoring how I felt. I missed him, but I knew I needed to move on from him and I knew he wasn't right for me. So instead of focusing on how much I missed him, or instead of denying it and trying to lie to myself, I put it here. And then I was like, but I've just missed me more. And that's what I'm focusing on now. Same thing for you, my love. It's like, of course I love you. Of course I care what you think about me, but I just love myself and care what I think more. And that's okay. It just takes 1%. Trust me, that little 1% goes a long way when someone's trying to tell you what career to pursue or what person to be with. Maybe you are, meeting someone and your best friend doesn't like him. If your opinion matters 1% more than hers about the man you're with and you feel good in that relationship, that's not going to bother you. The only reason you're letting other people get in your head is because you've pedestalized their feelings and their opinions as higher than your own, and that's not their fault. That is not their fault. And the crazy part is, like I said earlier, when you have the energy of someone who really trusts themselves, other people's strong opinions won't be as strong when they see how you're coming. If you're coming very self-assured, very confident, you know what you're doing, you understand why you're making the decisions you're making, the people in your life who love you and support you are going to be comforted by your confidence and will feed off of that energy. And you'll be surprised how their very strong opinions will now start to look a lot like the opinion you have about your life. If you come to your parents being real sure about the career path that you didn't think they would want you on, but you seem very confident about it, that confidence is going to impact the way they feel about what you're doing. If you come to a group of friends with a partner who you feel very solid with, you show how you feel loved and you feel safe with this person. Recently, I met one of my cousins, like her man, and I didn't know anything about him. And I wasn't paying attention to him the whole time we were hanging out. I was paying attention to how she acted around him. And that made me feel so good about this guy. Because something about seeing her and her feminine energy and safe and soft and she just looked like she could do the trust fall with this man made me love him so much more than anything he could have said or done in front of me. And so the people in your life who you're trying to please, who you would even argue are worthy of pleasing, they're just looking to you, my love. And so you really can't go wrong by developing this level of self-confidence and by centering your feelings about your life and about your decisions above everybody else's. Let me know if you're down to try this journal prompt too. I can definitely make a whole video about it because it's something that I do think has completely changed the trajectory of how I approach this year. It was something I started back in 2023, literally like on December 31st, 2023. And I wrote a letter from this year's version of me to last year's version of me. And I would be so curious to reread it. I actually haven't reread it yet. And just see if the energy of that girl last year sounds a lot like who I became in this year, because that would be low-key crazy, but I would not at all be surprised because I think there's something so magnetic about channeling your future self and assuring yourself that she's on your side no matter what. I think that gave me all the confidence I needed to ultimately become that version of me. This was just a nice little late night real talk on just some reflections I've had as I really have grown into the woman I've always dreamed of being, the woman who doesn't need to ask for permission, the woman who shows up confidently and gracefully and isn't letting other people's opinions of her change the way that she shows up in that space. And if you want that for yourself, I have full faith. I have full faith that just setting that intention is going to get you there. And I hope that these mindset shifts are going to help you do just that. As always, my love, I'm not going to ask you to like or subscribe. But what I will say this time is if you like this video, you should absolutely watch this video because it's pretty much like a boot camp version of what we talked about today. And it's kind of me talking through how I even got to this place. I love you so, so, so much, my love. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.